Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate 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 Vasudevaya.
So today we are reading from the Bhagavad Gita as it is, in the third chapter called Karma Yoga, from the text number 23.
Title number?
Sorry?
23, right? Text 23, right?
Page 23, yeah. Yad yaham narvataye yadi yaham narvarteyam chatukamanyatandritaha mama vatman vartante manushya parthasavashaha. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivendanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai. For if I ever fail to engage in carefully performing prescribed duties, O Partha, certainly all men would follow my path. Purport. In order to keep the balance of social tranquility for progress in spiritual life, there are traditional family usages meant for every civilized man. Although such rules and regulations are for the conditioned souls and not for Lord Krishna, because he descends to establish the principles of religion, he followed the prescribed rules. Otherwise, common men would follow in his footsteps, because he is the greatest authority. From the Srimad Bhagavad, it is understood that Lord Krishna was performing all the religious duties at home and out of home, as required of a householder. Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhaktivendanta. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Yadi yaham navarteyam jatu kamanyat tendri taha mama vatman vartante manushya partha savashaha. For if I ever fail to engage in carefully performing prescribed duties, O Partha, certainly all men would follow my path. So in the third chapter we heard about the duties which have to be performed by ordinary living entities, and Krishna explained before that whatever action a great man performs, common man follows, and whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. And since Krishna is a very great personality, he is also following the duties according to the role he is playing. Because actually Krishna, interesting thing is, Krishna, he is, like last time we discussed, he is independent. So he is the only living entity which is independent. And that means also that when he takes birth, he does it out of his free will and for his own pleasure. When Krishna takes birth in this material world, he does it for his own pleasure. All of us, we didn't take birth here out of our own pleasure. We were forced by material nature to take birth. And so that makes a big difference, of course. So, and as we discussed last time, and as we heard in the last verse, for Krishna, he actually doesn't have to fulfill any duties because he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So if he's independent, he doesn't have to fulfill any duties. No, he doesn't have to follow any rules and regulations. But he does so because he also takes pleasure in it. Because when he's coming to descend to the material world, he's performing pastimes. And these pastimes are based on exchange. There's exchange. Of course, actually in the 4th chapter we hear the reasons why Krishna descends to the material world. At the beginning of the 4th chapter, it's explained. Everybody who wants to check it or wants to read it also, he can see on. It actually starts. It starts in the text number 6 in the 4th chapter. I mean, you could also say it starts earlier, but let's start at number 6. And there Krishna says, although I am unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all living entities, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. So here we hear that Krishna is unborn and he has a transcendental body which never deteriorates. So we compare with ourselves, our bodies are deteriorating. Some of us already recognize it, having some problems in wherever, the hips or in the bones or in the functioning of the bodies. So Krishna has a transcendental body which never deteriorates, but still he descends millennium after millennium in his original transcendental form. That's interesting. So he doesn't take a material body when he comes to the material world. He comes with his spiritual body. Because Krishna, he's not different from his body, it said. So we are different from our body. We are not this body, we are a spiritual soul. So this body is changing, but our original spiritual soul is eternal. It's not changing. And so we come to this world to accept the material body and to play a certain role according to the body we accept, and which is practically forced on us according to our material desires and according to our karma. That's actually what determines which body we take. Like my spiritual master, he likes to give the example. It's like if you go to a shop and you want to get a dress, and then you have certain desires, so you have certain dresses which attract you, but you also just have a certain amount of money in your in your purse, or how you say this?
Wallet.
No, in the wallet, yeah. So, and then you have to accept a certain dress. You have to accept. In the same way, we have certain material desires, so they are also considered, but also our karma. So, what kind of karma we have determines which kind of body we get. But for Krishna, it's different. He actually comes with his original, and then we are not this body, we are the spiritual soul, and interesting is that, let me first finish with our body and then go to Krishna's body. So our body, we identify with this body, and interesting enough, because of this identification, we have to accept another body, because we think, I'm this body, I want to get happy with this body, and we develop all kinds of desires based on the body. And explain there's also the subtle body, which is consisting of the mind, the intelligence, and the false ego. This is a subtle body. We have this gross body which we can see, but we have also the subtle body. And the subtle body, it carries the soul to the next body. And during this lifetime, due to our due to the input we put into the subtle body, we already create or we form it in a way and which determines our next destination, interesting enough. So we have to be careful what we put into the subtle body. And therefore, it said we should put a lot of Krishna inside, a lot of spiritual knowledge, a lot of understanding that we are not this body, and we should develop spiritual desires. Because then our we will carry to the spiritual world. And whereas otherwise we can, of course, go again to get some shoppings, get a certain dress, and see how we can get happy with certain dresses, which is described will never give satisfaction. So because we know this material world, there's birth, old age, death, and disease, and all these dresses which we can buy in the shop, or all these bodies we can accept, all these bodies in the material world, they are conditioned in this way. And so naturally there's suffering, because these things are creating suffering. And they are against actually our eternal nature, which is to be full of bliss, and to be full of knowledge, and to have a loving relationship with God. So, therefore, we don't want to stay here. We want to go back to Krishna, and therefore it's actually very good to hear about Krishna. So, and about Krishna's transcendental nature. So Krishna says he comes to this world in his original body, transcendental form, millennium after millennium. And so next he says, whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice or descent of Bharat, and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself. So Krishna appears when there's a decline of religious practice and a rise of irreligion. So he's practically coming to re-establish the Varnashram Dharma, or to re-establish society in a proper situation. And so therefore, of course, he also is following the duties, because in our verse today is explaining that he's following the duties. And then he also says, to deliver the pious and to annihilate. It doesn't mean annihilate or to annihilate. I always mix it up. Annihilate. Annihilate. And to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish the principles of religion, I myself appear millennium after millennium. So to deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants. So these three purposes mentioned here: to re-establish religion, to annihilate the miscreants, and to deliver the pious. That's the reasons why Krishna appears. And what's actually said, Krishna, he could of course re-establish in religion just through his energies. He doesn't have to appear for that. And he doesn't have to appear for annihilation of the miscreants. He's God, he can just do it by his potencies. So it said actually the main purpose he is coming is for having the exchange with his devotees, or to deliver the devotees, to deliver the pious. It's interesting because we can see that Krishna has pleasure in it. That it was what gives Krishna pleasure. Because in the end it's about exchange. It's about an exchange. Because if we have personalities, we have exchange between personalities. And so this is the exchange between the living entity and God. That the living entity gets saved by God, or gets delivered by God. And Krishna takes a lot of pleasure in that. And so we can hear all kinds of pastimes in the Srimad Bhagavatam and in other scriptures, how Krishna is practicing what is written in this verse. And then there's one more verse connected with this, which says, one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. So this is also very interesting, because here we hear that if we understand Krishna's position, Krishna's nature, and understand what it means that he's transcendental, that he takes his birth out of his free will, that he is just performing his pastimes, then we actually get liberated ourselves. And we can go to the eternal abode of Krishna. We will not take birth again in this material world. I think it's interesting. We just spoke about this. We don't want to repeat the birth and death in this material world. So we can come to the state by understanding the transcendental nature of Krishna. So if we come back to the verse of today, it says that Krishna, for if I ever fail to engage in carefully performing prescribed duties or partner, certainly all men would follow my path. So since Krishna wants to re-establish religion, he is following the duties according to the according to the birth he takes, because we can see, like, as Krishna, he took birth. Actually, in the pastime of Krishna, it's a little bit difficult because he took birth as a Kshatriya, then he was performing pastimes as a Vaishya because he was sent to the Vaishya community and he was dealing like a Vaishya. Then he came back and again took the responsibilities of a Kshatriya. But we know of other, we know, for example, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna, he took birth as a Brahmana in this Leela. And when Rama performed his pastime, he was a Kshatriya. So, and according to the situation he was in, he followed the duties accordingly. And that's actually very interesting. Like we can hear many pastimes where Krishna, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he didn't make a, he didn't make a show. Like, I'm the Supreme Personality of God. He didn't like. He had more pleasure in accepting the role he was playing. Like, we hear when he was, for example, he was receiving brahmanas. There was this one. He had actually, we can start with his birth. We can start with his birth. Then his parents, just after his birth, they made some rituals to protect him and to attract auspiciousness and blessings for Krishna. So of course, for Krishna, you don't have to do these things. This Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Still, the parents did it, and then Krishna, he was acting like a cowherd boy, and then he was also going to the Gurukul, and he's the source of all knowledge. So still, he was going to the Gurukul to get taught all kinds of different things. It's actually very nicely explained in the Krishna book what kind of things he learned. Anyways, I don't remember them so good, but it's very interesting things. I wish I would have learned these things in school. It was like hiding something in the hand without the other one noticing what it is, and all kinds of interesting things he learned. So, but he went to Gurukul and accepted to be taught by somebody, by an ordinary living entity, whereas he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Very interesting. So actually, and there's this one pastime, just when I read this verse, I followed up on this pastime. I read it today, just because I think it's a very nice pastime, which displays also how Krishna is accepting or is following the duties. So he had his friend Sudama Vipra. He was as the same. He was his good friend in Gurukul. So, and then when Krishna, when he was in Dwaraka, this Sudama Vipra, he was living as a Brahmana, and he was very poor. And but he didn't mind, He was happy with just worshipping Krishna, and he didn't consider his material situation. And so his wife, she was very much concerned, mainly because of him, and she always told him, like, you have Krishna, he is your best friend, and you are his devotee. He will give you something, that you don't have to live such a life in such a poverty. So you should go to him and speak with him. And actually the Brahmana, he didn't really want to go to Krishna to ask something from him, and he always neglected. But at one point he thought, okay, if I go to Krishna, then I will not ask for something, but I have a chance to see Krishna. So let me use it as a chance to go to Krishna. And so then he went to Krishna. And what happened when he went to Krishna? Krishna was very happy to see him, and he treated him like a friend, and he embraced him, and he asked him to sit on the same bed, on Krishna's bed, and then he was washing his feet, and after this he was sprinkling the water on his head, because that's a custom that you wash the feet of the holy people and get blessings from the water from the feet. So, and of course, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He has no reason to do that practically, other than having pleasure in it. And then he because he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he takes this very humble role of worshipping the Brahman. Then he did arati to him, and he presented all kinds of food stuff. And actually, the queens of Krishna, they were very much surprised that he was treating this Brahmana like this. And then actually, Sudama Vipra, he brought some flat rice. Because he was very pure, he didn't have much, and he brought some flat rice, and he actually didn't want to give it to Krishna, because he thought, no, this is, I cannot, Krishna is living in such a opulence, and he actually didn't want to give it, but Krishna, he saw that he has something, and he was very eager to get it from Sudama Vipra. And then, Sudama Vipra offered him the sweet rice. They had some nice exchange. Actually, when he came back home, he saw his own wife coming out of a big palace and being beautifully dressed and everything. But he was much more happy with having met his friend Krishna. And so this is Krishna. He's getting a lot of happiness, having exchanged with his devotees. And interesting, what I really like about it, it doesn't matter. The position doesn't matter. In our world, it's so much about the position. Everybody wants to get to the top, and that's like last time I shortly mentioned it. Like, we think that's equal if everybody can get to the top. That's equality. But of course, not everybody can get to the top, because there's not space for everyone at the top. And in all societies, we have different orders. We need it. If everybody would just be a, how do we call it, CEO. If everybody would just be CEOs, then who would clean the pots? It doesn't work. So it's not about everybody being on the top. And Krishna, really nicely, he himself is ready to show it. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but still he shows it. He's taking different roles and accepting the role of being a servant also. It's like, for example, he took the role of being the chariot driver, which is practically like a Shudra position. And he gets like the warrior. He has to because he needs hands to fight, so he's actually using his foot to show the direction where to go. So he was very happy to accept this position to serve his dear friend Arjuna. And so he was having all kinds of different exchanges according to the custom. Explained, like when he met the Pandavas, Yudhishthira, he was paying his obeisances to Yudhishthira because he was older, and to Bhima also. And with Arjuna he was embracing because he was a friend and was the same age. And with Nakula and Sahadev, they were paying their obeisances to him. They were giving him respect. And Krishna had great pleasure in that. Of course, still, his devotees understand that he's not an ordinary living entity, but they accept. They are part of the pastime practically. They take the role in the pastime. And he's also explained how Narada Muni comes to visit Krishna in Dwaraka and to see what is going on, what is Krishna actually doing in Dwaraka, how he's living there. And then also Krishna receives him. And Narada Muni is like, he understands totally that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and still he's receiving the worship from him, just to take his... He doesn't get proud of it, like, now the Supreme Personality of Godhead is worshipping me. This is not the mentality of a devotee. He's just accepting this exchange. And that's very interesting. Like, the Supreme Personality of Godhead takes pleasure in having such an exchange with his devotee, like also worshipping him. And so practically we have two things here, like there's certain roles we are all playing. We are playing certain roles in this world, and I really like this concept which the Vedas give. Like, we are not this body, so we have a certain karma, we accepted a certain dress, and according to the dress we accept, we are playing a certain role. It's like in a theater play. There's different actors, and they have different roles. Somebody has to be the bad guy, somebody's a good guy, and if we don't have these different roles, then the theater play doesn't have juice, practically. If, there were not different characters, and there is no use of a theater play. You cannot make a theater play without different characters. You need different roles. So we also have different roles, and in society there's different roles. Like we discussed before, of course, like last time I explained a little bit about the Varnashram Dham system. Like there's the 4 social orders and the 4 ashrams. But then also in relationships, like we heard before, there's different roles also between in families. There's different roles. Like we heard, Krishna is addressing the elders differently than the youngers and these things. And it's actually very interesting, and it's actually part of the Vedic culture to get some understanding of that, because it's actually also in devotional life it has a meaning. Like for example, it's explained also, like with devotees we should have friendship with equal. We should, like senior devotees, we should serve them and we should inquire from them. And from junior devotees, we should be merciful to them, encourage them, and help them in spiritual life. So, but it also gives a good understand, and this is actually important for relationships. To have a relationship, it's very important to understand what is the different roles we have. Like if the student comes to the teacher and doesn't understand like what the teacher's role is and what his role is, then it doesn't work. The teacher cannot teach him something because the student is not ready to learn. And teacher doesn't want to teach him properly, you know. And I mean, we have this in in the Western world very much in our schools. In Berlin, we have a few schools where we have the students who don't want to learn from the teacher. and if it comes too much, you know, if there is not a certain etiquette, then it really doesn't work. Yeah? Then there's no use, and both are wasting their time. And so in that sense, it's actually important to understand the duties according to the situation we are in, and it's also important to understand it in concerning our relationship with Krishna, because we also have to understand who and what's our situation, what is Krishna's situation, what is Krishna's transcendental nature, what is our not transcendental nature, conditioned nature, and in this way approach Krishna, and in this way serve Krishna. Because Krishna, he doesn't need our service. He has enough. He's actually in himself happy. He's Atmaram, but he also has enough living entities who are not like rebelling and who are like are having proper understanding of the relationship they have with God and are interacting joyfully in this relationship. And so he doesn't need our service. So, but actually it brings joy to the living entity to have this loving relationship with God. That is what brings real happiness. So because this is actually beyond these roles, beyond this bodily situation we are in now. So that's actually very powerful. It doesn't matter which material condition we are in. If we are in a human body and can use our consciousness, we can use our consciousness to worship Krishna, and it doesn't matter which situation we have. And if we do so, then we can get the highest perfection of human life. And interesting is that it doesn't depend on our material body. It's only depending on our actually about our sentiment or our desire to worship Krishna. That's the only relevant factor for that. So even if we are very stupid or make everything wrong many times, we don't have many skills, it's still okay. We start to worship Krishna. Of course, we think we want. If we start to worship Krishna from all our heart, then of course we want to worship him in the best way we can. So we automatically will improve our cooking skills and whatever service we do for Krishna. We become better in cleaning the temple. We will become better in cooking for Krishna. Better musicians, better in giving classes. And these things. Yeah. And but actually it's like I said, it's because of this desire to worship Krishna, and that is most important, or that is actually what is relevant. It's not about our material condition. So therefore I prefer this much more than this idea of everyone has to become equal and has to get to the top. Everybody wants to get to the top. There we will be happy when we get to the top, and we should be equal. And everybody should have this possibility. Of course, we don't. I mean, I don't say that we don't want people to give possibility to express themselves or develop themselves. That's not the message. It's just about the goal. It's about the goal should not be that. The goal should be like, let us understand our nature. Let us understand what we really like to do, what we really are good in, and let's follow that, and let's offer the activities we do in Krishna's service. And in this way, we will become happy. We will make Krishna happy. We will be a good part in society, and this is very good. Yeah. Okay. I think we should stop here. I mean, I didn't speak so much about like certainly all men would follow my path. I like that Krishna is he explains himself to be like we say the role model or like forebild, the idol, yeah, like in German we say Idol. It's an idol, you can say like this, yeah. Because Krishna, he's because if we hear Krishna's God, okay, then if he wouldn't follow, if he didn't perform prescribed duties, this would discourage us, of course. Yeah? Actually, sometimes Krishna is breaking the rules, but just to show his supremacy, you know, like, and he's all to actually and also for the exchange with his devotees. But yeah, this is a higher principle then. This is like, and for us maybe difficult to understand. So first we have to understand his transcendental nature and his supremacy as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then we maybe can try to understand how Krishna is like sometimes breaking the rules also. But in general he's following the path, or is following the prescribed duties. Because otherwise common men would follow. And I mean this is actually natural for the living entity. The living entity needs is orientating with other people. Like Carl, like 2 weeks ago I think he gave a lecture and he explained like they made this test in psychology, like so we orient on other people, you know. If everybody in the room says this is green and and you know they're totally convinced, and we are tested practically, you know, and then we feel under pressure and we think, okay, it must be green. So this is psychology, but it shows that we are searching for orientation in the environment, and we have idols. That's also natural for us, you know. Like we see, like actually nowadays more than before, I think, you know, we have so many idols, like and so many stupid idols actually, you know, like rock stars who are doing all kinds of nonsense, you know, like being the uncultured persons ever, you know. They know how to play guitar or something, or maybe even not really that, but you know, they're somehow successful, and but people worship them, you know, even though they are the lowest characters at all, you know. They are nice rock stars, I'm sure, but it's just one example, you know. But we can see, like, and nowadays there's so many idols, and like in all kinds of fields, and people are searching for that, but not for and actually what they're missing the most is an idol which is like showing them a way how to live peacefully, to live a correct life, and to be a good person. Yeah? That's what they're actually missing the most. Yeah? And actually the real bad thing is that it's not popular nowadays. Huh? I mean, at least in the West, it's not popular. If you're a gangster, then you get popular, you know. If you're like actually our son, he's like 10 years old, and like recently sometimes he starts to do some rap, you know, like it's just, and where does he know it from? He must have heard it somewhere, you know, and he's sometimes using some strange words which he didn't get from us, you know. And you can see these guys are cool, you know, people are orientating on that, but they are presenting the totally nonsense, you know, become gangsters, you know, let's not use all kinds of stupid words, you know, communicate in such a way, just put yourself on the throne and put everybody down. That's that's actually very stupid, and still those are idols nowadays.
It's very dangerous. It's not only stupid, it's very, very dangerous.
Yeah.
It's demonic.
It is. And it's dangerous, and it's actually, it shows that our society is the values are kind of, they are wrongly positioned. Huh? It clearly shows us that you become very famous, you become very rich, and you can make all kinds of nonsense, and you will become like this. So we can see there's some disbalance. But also we see that people search for idols, and so we should take the devotees as the idols. Srila Prabhupada, of course, is for us our biggest idol, because he showed us, he gave Krishna consciousness to us, and he showed us how to practice in the modern world. And by his own example, like he was living with the hippies, and he was doing everything. He was collecting money, he was giving lectures, he was feeding them, he was cooking, he was cleaning afterwards.
Writing books.
Huh?
Writing books.
He was writing books, meanwhile he was doing kirtan, was speaking with them, which was probably also sometimes very difficult. And he was doing it, and he never complained, you know, and he was serving them, actually. He was serving. And because he saw them as sent by his own Guru Maharaj, and actually by this service he encouraged many people to become Krishna conscious, and he actually started the movement like this. And so we can take Srila Prabhupada as an idol for being such a sincere devotee and so determined to spread Krishna consciousness, and so humble and tolerant. These are qualities we should strive for. Huh? And we can see in Krishna also that he's humble, and even takes humble positions just to fulfill his duty. Of course, Krishna, we have Krishna as an idol, but of course, but because we cannot imitate him, huh? That's the thing. We can also not imitate Srila Prabhupada, of course, but still, Krishna is the one who's worshipped, and so so we have Srila Prabhupada as an idol, but we also need somebody. We need also somebody to worship. We need an idol to follow, and we need somebody to worship. And of course, we follow Krishna, following his instructions, and we worship Krishna. We worship Srila Prabhupada, we follow his instructions. And that will make our life perfect. Okay, so let's stop here. Maybe somebody wants to add something, a question or comment. Now is the time.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for your lecture. Yeah, and you told us about idol and also about this beautiful story about Brahma Sudama Vipra. Yeah, and in his position it was a bit better, I think, than our position, because he saw Krishna face to face. Yeah, he was growing up with Krishna, and we know that Krishna can be best friend for every living entity. Yeah, but I think when I think about my life, I think I want to go to the spiritual world, but the problem is that I am not thinking about Krishna. I'm thinking, because of suffering in this world, maybe it would be nice to be in this place where is no suffering. Yeah, And also the other part that we didn't see Krishna, we don't see Krishna, and we have no, this idol have no relationship with him personally, and how can we be in love with Krishna?
Haribo. That's our goal, huh? To be in love with Krishna, yeah? Yeah, I think, okay, we don't see Krishna, but Krishna gives us instructions how to see him. And Krishna gives us, in the Bhagavad Gita, he's explaining us how we can connect with him. Like, it's actually everything is there what we need in the Bhagavad Gita explained. And even if we don't see him, but for example, Krishna says that he preserves what they need and gives what they lack to the devotees. So, and we can if we accept that, this is Krishna's word, Krishna's promise. Okay, so I engage in devotional service. I fulfill my duties, and Krishna will preserve what I have and give what I need. So if we accept that, then we can make realizations about it, that it really happens. That's really, like so many times on like living as a brahmachari, that this idea came up for me, like how do I survive in life, but so many times Krishna showed me that it worked, somehow I'm still alive and not in jail, and so didn't have to commit any crimes. And so there's so many things Krishna is saying in the Bhagavad Gita, how we get love for him. Actually, funny now, I just opened the page, and it's actually the next verse from the verses we read, and this verse Krishna is saying, and thus they all attain transcendental love for me. So in the 10th verse of the 4th chapter, he said, how to attain love for Krishna. So he said, being freed from attachment, fear and anger, being fully absorbed in me and taking refuge in me, many, many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me, and thus they all attained transcendental love for me. So yeah, actually the Bhagavad Gita is giving us a knowledge about what is our relationship with Krishna and how to perform bhakti-yoga, also how to surrender to Krishna. But then we hear also Srimad Bhagavatam, so many devotees. And yeah, it's a process. It's like we overcome lust, and that is the first thing that we understand. Okay, lust is the cause of suffering. It's not by chance that you're suffering. The sufferings come to lust and through lust. And lust is the idea to enjoy matter, to enjoy in this material world. So, of course, there is some restrictions how we can try to enjoy this matter, but just philosophically understanding this is first step, to accept this. Okay, this is not the ultimate goal. I might understand, that's actually the problem we have as devotees. We understand we have some attachment, and we understand it's actually causing problems, but we also understand we are not able to give it up. We're still attached. So by performing devotional service, we become more and more detached, and this is our attitude. Okay, we are here, we have some attachments, we still follow some attachments, but we also engage in devotional service and desire to become pure devotees. And I mean, and this is joyful. This is not to forget. This is we don't want to, like once somebody was asking Jai Nitai Swami, like, what do you have to give up to be Hare Krishna? And he said, suffering. Because normally people think, you have to give up this and that and all these things. It's actually the suffering we have to give up, and that's we understand that we want to become more and more joyful. So we're striving for the greatest bliss. Actually, we want to get to the top. Yeah, okay. No, we want to get to the top, the topmost devotional service. But there's space for everyone. And interesting enough, we can still be individual, have different roles and everything, but we can get like pure devotees. And Srila Prabhupada said we can do it in one lifetime. He said actually we can do it in one moment. In one moment you can become a pure devotee of Krishna consciousness. I mean, and there's stories like, okay, Krishna, in the Bhagavatam we hear stories, and we say, okay, but we're in the Kali Yuga, Krishna doesn't appear like this, but maybe he just didn't desire enough. Huh?
But Krishna appeared as a Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Kali Yuga.
Yeah, Krishna. Okay.
Yes.
So let's stop here. Oder wolltest du noch was Dringendes Fragen sagen? Oder?
Maybe so could it be that many people are attached to material values, temporary,
Ja.
in this material world?
Also kannst du auch auf Deutsch fragen nochmal,
Ach so.
wenn dir es einfach fällt.
Ich denke, viele Menschen, die keinen festen Glauben haben, sind an Erscheinungsformen der Materie gebunden, wie zum Beispiel ihr Auto oder ihr Reichtum oder ihr Schmuck oder ihr Aussehen oder so, all das, was vergänglich ist. Und
Ja, thank you. Das ist ein Kommentar quasi, oder?
ja,
Just translated this. It says many people are attached to material things which are temporary, like their body looking, or their car, or their wealth, and this is the cause of attachment. And that's true.
I just want to add one comment about Prabhupada as an idol. So that time when Prabhupada started Krishna-consciousness movement, Loknath Swami Maharaj was his secretary. So he was going to all the devotees and asking, would you like to be initiated tomorrow? So there were one initiation program for all of the devotees, and one devotee said, let me think. So there was a list, and Prabhupada on the night, that night, he wrote all the spiritual names with the names. And next day when Prabhupada, after Mangalarati, when he saw the list, he saw one name was added. So he asked Loknath Swami Maharaj that what happened, why you added a new name, and he replied that one devotee came to me and he asked me and begged me that to add his name. So Prabhupada called that devotee and he came to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada asked what happened in one night that you changed your mind and you wanted to be initiated. Then he replied, that devotee replied that, Prabhupada, when during today's Mangalarati, I saw that you are also doing the Guru Puja. So what you were preaching, you are also doing the life on the same way. You also doing the Guru Puja. Not only your disciples are doing the Guru Puja. You are doing Guru Puja for your Guru. So from that, he take the initiation.
Yes, thank you.
Kann ich noch was sagen?
Okay, der letzte Kommentar.
Wenn man sich an die Geschichte mit Narashima und den Prahlada und seinem Vater Hiranyakashipu erinnert, versucht der Hiranyakashipu immer Prahlada davon überzeugen, dass er schlecht ist oder dass er auch Schlechtes tun soll, weil das Richtige wäre und er nicht an Gott glauben sollte, weil Gott eine Illusion sei. Und so ähnlich ist es auch heutzutage, so dass halt irgendwie man den Eindruck hat, die Werte wären vertauscht, sozusagen, dass das Böse das neue Gute wäre und das Gute das neue Böse. So.
Ja, es ist Verwirrung halt, ja, dämonische.
Ja.
Letztendlich basiert das alles auf dem Atheismus, ne, dass man halt, that you don't want to accept God and you don't want to put God in the center, and this brings a demonic mentality, and it's said that irreligion becomes to religion, and religion becomes to irreligion. That's like.
Breiter mit Zigaretten zu rauchen, dass es toll wäre und dass es.
For example, smoking cigarettes becomes good.
Es ist
Get respected for smoking.
toxic, fulfilling.
Anyways, we could speak for hours on that, but let's get some mercy from the not the Singadev and from Jagannatha, Baladev and Subhadra by getting the lotus feet and the Mahaprasadam ki jai. Shri Prabhupada ki jai.
Nitai Prabhu ki
Jai.
Schön, dass du gekommen bist. Mal gelesen.
Warst du Samstag auch dabei, ist der Tiran? Ich auch leider nicht.
Er ist ja jetzt bei der Vedic-Akademie stark tätig.
Ja, er ist ja hier in der Nähe von Berlin, oder?
Ja, genau. Da wollte ich unbedingt mal hin, da können wir gerne
Ist das
zusammen.
hier, oder was?
Ja. Hier? Was meinst du mit hier?
Wo ist diese Vedic-Akademie?
Na, im Norden von Berlin.
Achso, okay.
Fang nächstes Jahr.
Christoph?
Gegessen?
Hast du das schon gesehen?